How about this one? Please say this one works. Two seconds.
How about this one?
Oh,
Please say this one works.
I'm going to go back to this one now.
2 seconds.
How about this one? Please say this one works.
I'm going to go back to this one now. Ah, right, okay. I think we're good. I'm not going to sing a song.
Ah, right, okay.
Right, anyway, back to where we are. Well, welcome back to the DC UK podcast. This is season 7, and it is episode 4. And as always, I'm your host, James Graham. Finally, right, let's get back into it after that microphone trouble. It's been a positive start to the season, the fact that we are still unbeaten. We're 4 games in, and we are one of 3 teams in the East that are currently unbeaten. Granted, we've not had the best form, which is 1 win, 3 draws. But we're unbeaten. So that's the positive bit. We had our first clean sheet as well. Another positive. But we are 9th in the East. So there's the game itself at the weekend wasn't the best. That's as good as it's going to get. We are coming up against Orlando. The players are over in the Sunshine State. They're already on their way over there. They've had the press conference yesterday, which I was hoping to get onto, but unfortunately, because of the time zone difference, I wasn't able to attend. So the usual time for the press conferences normally means it's like about 5:30 in the UK, 5:30, 6 o'clock. It's an hour earlier, so I was unfortunately working, so I wasn't able to attend on that one. But we're getting there. We're getting there. What else did I say at that very beginning, which you guys did not hear? And I can't remember. Oh, well, never mind. It can't have been that important. But I've had a breakdown of the game at the weekends. I've put it through Google Gemini to see what the Gemini thought about it, as well as myself. And then we've also broken down into this weekend's game. And like we've done over the last few episodes, got a Gemini prediction as well, which is probably going to be fairly accurate. It got the first game right, absolutely spot on. Last weekend's game, it didn't get quite right. It predicted a win for us, a 2-1 win, obviously 0-0 draw. And we'll go through what that fixture and what that prediction is for this weekend as well. Brett. If you're answering that on there, mate. Cheeky. That is cheeky. Anyway, for those of you who are not in the live chat, Brett has asked if there's something about a free DC shirt. Not quite right now. Maybe it's later in the year. We'll do another competition. See if we get maybe it's one of these, Look at that. Adidas. And if you want to buy one, head to dc9kingdom.com/DC UK store. The link will be in the description and the show notes. So let's start off with some news. Around the grounds, there's not really been much in terms of DC news, but there's been a fair chunk of other news going around as well. So let's hear some of that lovely DC UK thing. Here we are. So news from around MLS, around America, and some Club World Cup, because that is happening in the States as well. MLS wise, last weekend, I think it was, was it last weekend? Or might be the weekend before. Austin FC beat LAFC in a shock result. And that was because it was in LA as well, which was just a massive, massive result for Austin FC, who are kind of like a mid team, really. Better than us, I would say, but it was still a bit of a surprise. You had New York Red Bulls, the team that don't play in New York. They drew against this weekend's opponents 2-2. Toronto were beaten at home by Chicago. As I said, LAFC were beaten by Austin in the earlier kickoff of last Saturday. Charlotte beat Cincinnati, who typically do all right. Then you got our game against Montreal, which was a 0-0 draw. Then New York City FC 2, New England Revolution 1. Then a high-scoring draw with between Kansas and Minnesota, the 3-3. Dallas 0, Vancouver 1. Salt Lake was a 2-1 win away on the road. Then a couple of draws in there. Nashville beats Philadelphia 3-1 on the road. That was a bit of a shock since the great start by Philadelphia so far this season. And of course, I knew it was you, Brett. Who else would it be? Who calls me Jimothy? But it's nice to see you. And then Miami beats Atlanta in their derby match as well. I said derby match, rivalry match. They had a intense playoff game last year where Atlanta actually beat Miami. That was the shock results in 2024. And also MLS All-Stars. It's been announced that they are going to be playing the League MX All-Stars in the 2025 MLS All-Star game in Austin, Texas. Yay. Woo. I think I still can't get hyped of the MLS All-Star game. Especially when it's between League MX and MLS, I just feel it's a forced match. I'd prefer if it was between the East and the West. I think that would be great. That would be my kind of ideal, because that's a proper MLS All-Star game rather than going against. I don't know. There's pros and cons. I'd love to hear what you guys think about it out there, especially those in the States. So obviously we had the MLS All-Star game in DC recently. Is it something you want to see continue when it's against Liga MX All-Stars, or would you prefer internal league All-Star game? Other news that's been happening, you've got USL, so D2 league, D2, whatever you want to call it. They are adopting promotion and relegation. Finally, a league and a sport in USA are adopting a pro rel format. This is going to be insane. That's due to happen. I think it's in 2028. I want to say, if I remember rightly. But this is huge. This is massive news. I don't think it's being promoted as such. It's just going to be mad. It's going to be interesting to see how they adopt it as well, because USL is it's quite big. When you look at the teams that are in there, so in the championship, when you look at it, you've got 4, 8, 12. Let's just have a look at the standings, James. If they load all right, you've got 24 teams, so kind of like a normal league size. So that could be fine. League One, however, there's only 14 teams. Okay, that's not so bad. I thought that was going to be a bit more than that. And then League Two. How is that going to play out? So that is where it is all over the place. That's a lot of teams in League Two. So that could be an interesting way to do Pro Rel and how that's going to format, because you've got loads of different little mini leagues within the actual full league. You've got a Valley division, you've got Southwest, Southeast, South Florida. That's an interesting format and how they will play that out. But you've got time to tweak it. They've got time to really play to it, and hopefully it's a sign of things to come where there could be something with MLS. If this works in USL, then I think there will be a push to get this working in Major League Soccer, and that's going to be crazy. I'm not sure how much it's going to have an impact. I think it'll have to me personally, I think it'll be a massive impact on the league and a massive impact on how people perceive football in USA. The fact they'll be adopting a consistent approach to how it is in countries all over the world with promotion and relegation. Don't get me started on Argentina, because that is just confusing as shit. Yeah, don't get me started on that. I could quite rant on about that for a long time. So, promotion relegation, I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I would love to actually have a proper in-depth conversation with someone on this show about promotion relegations. If you want to be that person, please let me know, and we'll have a good chat about Pro Rel. Elsewhere in Club World Cup, because that is it, it's happening in USA. Club Leon have been booted out of the Club World Cup due to club ownership rules. The owners of Club Leon also own Pachuca, who are also in that tournament as well. So they've not been able to have the same owners in across two different teams in the same competition. That's been quite a standard thing, I think. Sometimes they can get around it, but when they're from the same country, I think that's a bit trickier. I think there's been, when you look at Red Bull teams in Europe as well. When am I next heading out to the States? Great question. Not sure. Hoping for next year. Going to keep my fingers crossed for 2026. It'd be great to go to the World Cup in the USA. That would be insane. See what happens. Let's see what happens. Speaking of international tournaments, Nations League, the CONCACAF Nations League, and more importantly, due to obviously you guys out there who are listening, majority of you are in the States. USA knocked out of the Nations League by Panama. Guys, what happened? 94th minute stoppage time winner by Waterman, who goes and celebrates with Thierry Henry in what has been Thierry Henry's apparently favorite ever celebration, that he's not even been involved in any of the play. But yeah, that is unreal. And now you've obviously, if you're a long time listener of the show, or if you're a new listener, when you look at the stats of that game, USA dominated everything on paper, just not the result. That's just shocking. Absolutely shocking. Obviously, I've not seen any of the game. I know someone who messaged me on Instagram asked me if there was anywhere in the UK to watch it. Doubted it because it was on YouTube. We typically don't get many places who will put spots on via YouTube over here. But if we wanted to watch it, for us, anything CONCACAF stuff is usually on their YouTube channel. So that's quite cool. But yeah, I didn't stop up to watch that game, as I know I stay up late to watch the DC United games, and I'm a bit mad for that. But no, I wasn't going to stay up for that one. Gosh, I've not even watched the England game tonight. I just don't get time these days to watch games at normal kickoff times. Kids. Still undefeated. That is absolutely right, BB Davis. We are still undefeated. It's very, very strange to be 4 games in and still undefeated. That I'd like to have at least one more win. And I feel like we should have had a win at the weekend. So, speaking of which, let's talk about that. But before we do, let's hit the theme to signal the end of the news. Right. So, the game at the weekend, finishing in a 0-0 draw. Not a particularly fantastic game. Got to give credit to their keeper, Siro. He was phenomenal in their net. Benteke had a goal ruled out as well. Fabian Herbers from Montreal was a very, very key player for them. I think he hit the woodwork twice in the first half, off the post and off the crossbar. And yeah, he was just a cracking player for them. So again, disappointed by Borosino and Jared Stroud. They were just not particularly great. Stroud had a sitter in the second half. I thought he should have done a lot better. And we were really weak on our right side. Incredibly weak. Montreal were just finding time and space on that side of the pitch to allow plenty of crosses into the box. Granted, they didn't make any of the opportunities at work, but that was a worrying sign in my book. The fact that we were allowing so much space. Kim Jong, probably shouldn't say that. Kim June was solid in goal. Absolutely fine. Getting his first clean sheet, really good. Didn't have too much work to do. Yes, I'm seeing laughs in the chat from that little slip up there. We'll just gloss over that. Yeah, he was phenomenal. He's been good. I'm really pleased for the lad that he's got his first clean sheet of the season. And it's come so early on in his black and red career. Very, very happy for the lad. First, if you've not heard, he is the first under 22 initiative goalkeeper, which is great. That's a nice little record in our history to have that. João Pedro was, again, pretty good, following on from his performance previous weekend. I thought he was absolutely solid. Pirani was a bit quiet. Benteke, fairly quiet, but again, he did get a goal ruled out for handball, I think it was, from Pirani, which when you looked at it on the replays, when they went to VAR, it certainly looked like it. But now I'm thinking, was that just the angle? Because if you look at it from the other side, it's not wholly conclusive that it was a handball. So there's that. But I can see why. I can see why it's been ruled out. And to be fair, if that was me, I probably would have ruled it out. Yeah, it just felt like the first half we were on the attack. We looked threatening, and we were having quite a lot of initiative. But we were just not able to break the door down. See you next time, Brett. Nice to see you again. But the second half was just abysmal. Absolutely abysmal. The referee started to lose it a little bit. It came across, there was a lot of yellow cards in that second half. If I go back to the actual stats of the game, I just wait for that to load. It was just, I don't want to be blaming the referees every week, but they've got to take some responsibility. We had 4 yellow cards in the first half. And then in the second half, we had 3 yellow cards in the space of 4 minutes. And then another yellow card in added time. And then when you look at the way the free kicks were given, "26 fouls against us." 26. That's a huge amount. That's almost 1 every 3 minutes against us. Not as an entirety, but just against us. Montreal only had 9 fouls given against them. Now, they picked up 5 yellow cards. 5 yellow cards and 9 fouls. Now, it's just I just don't get the refereeing in this league. It's been bad. It's been bad for a long time. And you've got the Club World Cup coming up. You've got the World Cup coming up. You're going to be on the center of the world stage in the planet's most popular sport. And you've got a league that is not really sure where it's going. You've got a league that has appalling refereeing. You've got a league that you have to spend hundreds of millions of dollars just to get a place in the league. A league with 30 teams that doesn't have promotion relegation. A league that at the moment runs on a spring to autumn calendar. That's completely different to the majority of the world. There's not many leagues that have that. And they don't break for international windows like this weekend. Something's got to give. And I know the league is changing the format in terms of when they play. I think they're moving it to the typical autumn, spring time zones, which is going to be great. But the fact that right now, and it's happened again, that we've got players away on international duty. And this is not just from DC, but this is again across the league in its entirety. Key players away. It's just not right. It's just not right. Looking at what things were said after the game, Troy saying, I actually attended the press conference after this game. I had some good time to do that with. Troy was frustrated. He was asked about the substitutions in the second half, especially when taking off Eno and Kojima in a double substitution. And he said he might have taken off Kojima a bit too soon, which is refreshing to hear. A manager saying that they may have got a substitution wrong, because that doesn't always happen. But they was aiming to keep like the freshness in the team there. Commented that Barajas had a decent debut for all of the 10 or 12 minutes that he was on. Not really given too much on there, but it should be getting more minutes over the coming weeks as well. The Montreal head coach emphasized obviously how big getting the first clean sheet of the season for them, because they conceded 2 each game prior to playing ourselves. And you've got to give credit to their keeper. Soro was fantastic. He was absolutely phenomenal in between the sticks. And yeah, it was a frustrating game. Frustrating game for us. So, but it's our first clean sheet since we played these guys at Audi Field last year, which is not great. That's not particularly brilliant in that respect. But let's move on to this weekend's fixture against Orlando. Now, as I said earlier at the beginning of the show, I ran it through Google Gemini, like I've done so far each season, and I want to give you guys what AI is saying about DC United this season. I want to do this pretty much every week. Every show is break it down, get Google Gemini to give us the predictions, and see how accurate it is. So far, 1 out of 10. But kind of the breakdown. Obviously, it's a game that's happening this weekend, 7:30 Eastern time, 11:30 UK time. MLS season pass. There's been a good rivalry between us and Orlando. 19 times we've faced each other. We've got a slight advantage in the actual results department. We've won 9 times to Orlando's 8. However, recently there's been a shift in how those results have gone. When you look at last year, Orlando beat us in both matches, and they also had a win on their turf as a 5-0 win where Lucas Bartlett was sent off in the first half, which we could really do without that this weekend. Last 3 encounters, the goal tally has been significant. We had a 3-1 win, which was followed by a 3-2 win for Orlando, and then the previously mentioned 5-0 win for Orlando as well. So there's always been a really good game between us. Always something crazy happens. We look back to at the Rooney era, and you look. And Taylor, if you are listening in, I'm sorry, but I've got to mention Rooney's goals. The Rooney's goals when he scored that free kick at your place. Then you've got the goal from deep inside his own half where Dave Johnson made that ecstatic hit in the net, which was played all over. And I actually heard that in a restaurant over here in the UK. That someone watching the clip, which was just brought a huge smile to my face to hear that. Then you had that play, which was unbelievable. And don't worry, it will be shared again. It will be shared. It was just something else. That sprint back from the penalty box to tackle, to then turn around, to see Lucho Acosta, the smallest man on the pitch, to play that beautiful crossfield ball. Then Acosta to leap like a salmon, to head it over the keeper into the back of the net for his hat trick in stoppage time to win the game when we had David Ousted up on the corner when it was 2-2. That was just mad. Absolutely mad. So yeah, there's always something big happening in this game. I know Orlando have scored stoppage time winners at our place as well. It's just, if there's no entertainment this weekend, it's going to be a shock. It's going to be a huge shock. Key players from Orlando's point of view: Martin Ojeda and Marco Pasalic. Pasalic has found the net 3 times already this season. Luis Muriel also been a significant contributor, where he's got a more direct style of play under Oscar Pareja. Duncan Maguire has returned as well. He had a shoulder injury towards the end of last season in the MLS playoffs, but he returned last weekend. Though Nico Rodriguez is going to be unavailable due to a thigh injury. Muriel's been playing in a possible false 9 in Orlando's attacking strategy, allowing Ojeda and Pasalic to operate more centrally. Midfield is anchored by players like Cesar Araujo and Eduard Atuesta. Araujo's stability, Atuesta's more of a defensive midfielder. Wilder Cartagena is sidelined with a season-ending injury. Homegrown midfielder Gustavo Caraballo signed a first-team contract, which is just showing that they are looking at their youth academy to bring in talent as well. You've got Robin Janssen. I don't know whether he's going to be around this weekend, actually. He might be away on international duty. I'm not sure if that is the case, but I'm sure we'll find out. Rodrigo Schlegel, the man who had that playoff penalty shootout heroics. And then you got Dan Thorhalson, who used to play for NYCFC. They are a few of the key figures in the Orlando backline. Though Pedro Galese is away on international duty this weekend with Peru, which means they're going down the road of the young goalkeeper Javier Otero, making his first MLS start. David Bracalo is also away on international duty for Orlando. They have, to take note on this one, conceded at least 2 goals in each of their 4 fixtures so far this season. So that just shows you they are a little bit vulnerable at the back. A bit like us. In terms of coaches' takes, Oscar Pareja said in his pre-match press conference that he's acknowledged the importance of results and the need for the team to start securing victories, especially at home. Mentions, obviously, the upcoming game against us is the important one. Addressing challenges of facing players like Christian Benteke and his aerial dominance. And they will have to employ different strategies, which is not good if your team is not being great defensively, that you're going to have to start playing differently to accommodate an opponent. He has expressed his satisfaction with the development of young players like Javier Otero, and he's confident in giving the goalkeeper his first start, and also the good form of the DPs that they've got in Muriel Pasalic and Ojeda. Troy, in his pre-match remarks, has obviously said likewise about Orlando's players, that they've got some really good players in their attacking lineup, especially within their DPs. Angulo, Ojeda, and Muriel, obviously new DP Pasalic. Alessandro stressed the importance of DC maintaining the defensive solidarity and preventing Orlando's attackers from gaining comfort on the ball. So again, that's going to emphasizing that high press. And Vamos United Gunaboy, welcome back to the show. Nice to see you in the chat. They're saying acknowledge Orlando being a strong opponent, and it's emphasized that we want to continue the consistent start where we're currently unbeaten. As previously mentioned in the chat, we are still undefeated. And yet Galese being with Peru and having a relative unknown in the sticks for Orlando should hopefully allow us to score at least 1 or 2 goals this weekend, I reckon. Benteke dominating the air. And I would love to see Paglo get a goal. And we need to start seeing Pirani. I'm trying to think of the words. He needs to book his IDs up. Same with Stroud, same with Eno. Those 3, I was hoping to see more of. Eno, I was expecting to be a bit more solid, covering that central midfield, but he seems to drift out wide. And I don't know why. And that leaves a huge gap in the middle. Stroud himself has been poor. He drifts centrally, and it's just that means that we relying on Herrera to be the one on the right, doing everything. And I don't know, his Stroud seemed to be, at least on the eye, wider last year. This year just doesn't seem to be really in it at all. I'd much prefer, let's give Baraja a go. Let's give Murrell a go. Let's allow the players who seem to be wanting to be on the pitch and having that hunger, and will most likely take opportunities, get them out there, get them some minutes, because giving them 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, it's not going to help develop them in any way, shape, or form. Recent performances, Orlando's recent performance, it's been somewhat inconsistent. Drawing against New York Red Bulls 2-2 in a game in which they lost the lead twice. They then previously had a defeat against New York City FC in a 2-1 defeat. They did get a victory against Toronto 4-2 at the beginning of March, but also then had a defeat against Philadelphia Union when they started the season off strongly. A lot of goals, 2-4-2 fixtures there, a 2-1 and a 2-2. So plenty of goals. So hopefully we'll have entertainment this weekend. DC for us on the other hand, so obviously we've been a lot more consistent with the 3 draws and just that 1 win. 2 2-2s. I'm sorry, a 2-2, a 1-1, a 0-0. Yeah. Not again unbeaten this in 2025, which is fun, absolutely brilliant. So it's going to be an interesting game when you've got the defensive vulnerabilities of Orlando, the high press of DC United. It could be interesting. The first 2 games we got goals in the opening 10 minutes. I'd love to see that again. It'd be great. And I think it's highly possible that will happen again. Let's have a look at what Gemini said as its prediction. So it said, and I will quote this: predicting the exact score of a soccer match is always difficult, as many variables can influence the outcome. However, based on the information gathered, I can provide a reasoned prediction. Now, this is where I'm using the Gemini Advanced, the 2.0 Flash model with a deep research to bring, and what that does, it goes through, it scours the web through lots of different websites. It looks at what journalists are saying. It looks through history. It looks through match stats. It looks through form. It goes in depth to try and find this information. It comes up factors to consider. Orlando City's attacking strength. They've shown they can score goals, particularly at home. Players like Pasalic, Ojeda, and Montreal pose a significant threat. Orlando City's defensive vulnerabilities is another factor. So conceding a high number of goals and the absence of Pedro Galese is a major concern. Our recent form, relatively solid defensively, but attack has been inconsistent. So far, we've obviously on a trend of drawing games. Historical head-to-heads, there's always been high-scoring games in this one. So considering these factors, Google Gemini leans towards a high-scoring game. No surprise. And predicts a scoreline of drumroll 2-2. And the reason it's given, because it's actually provided the reasoning. Orlando City's attacking prowess should allow them to score at least 2 goals at home. However, their defensive weakness, especially with the backup goalkeeper, could allow DC United to capitalize. DC United has shown they can score goals, and they have been consistent in drawing games. And those are the reasons why it's gone for a 2-2 draw. Now, be interested to hear what you guys think. I do have a fan question as well to go through. So bear with me whilst I bring that up. Please put your predictions in there. I think we'll win. I think we can shut them out. I think we can get another clean sheet. 2-0 I'm going to go with. But in terms of the question I had sent in, which was Kim Kolb, great guy, love him to bits, love his photography. But also we've got a DC UK photographer as well in Daniel Rankin, so go and check him out. You'll see me pop up on Instagram sharing his stuff. He is absolutely phenomenal. But he has asked, who's impressed me, myself, the most in these early stages of 2025? Now, so far, it's been a bit hit and miss across the team as a whole. And of course, Gunnar, you're going to be there as well. So, slight off topic. We'll talk about that. Kim, the goalkeeper, Korean keeper, he's been brilliant. I've loved watching him play, and I've loved watching him grow so far. That first game, he was nervous. That first half, you could see the nerves in there. But each game, he's gotten better and better. And it's been great. Last 2 games, I've been really impressed by him. So yeah, he's been good. Defensively, not really a lot to shout home about. Schneck has had a good couple of games now. He had a great game. It was against Oh, who did we play before Montreal? Who was the win? Who did we beat? Chicago? Was it Chicago? But yeah, whichever game we went to, he was phenomenal at left back. Absolutely brilliant. Spot in Kansas, not Chicago. My bad. Yeah, he's been good so far. Midfield, I've not been impressed with our centre midfield, apart from Kojima, who's had some time in the middle. Kojima's been really good. His first goal of the season was a nice little darting run into the middle of the box to flick on that little cross from Peglow as well. Another player who's been impressive in his couple of games so far. It's been nice to see Benteke continue his form of 2024 with 3 goals so far. So there's been a few little highlights there when you look back on it and you talk about it out loud and you say it. But there's been plenty of disappointment as well. Herrera has been as impactful as he has been. Stroud's been poor, but he's only had a couple of games. Now incredibly poor. And Pirani. I've had high hopes for Pirani. I'm starting to lose my optimism now. If I don't see anything great, either in this game or the next game, I'll give him 2 more games. However, if I don't see anything good from him, I'll be calling for him to be dropped. There's only so many chances he can have, and something needs to click. Something needs to happen. And we saw glimpses of that last year. He had a great run of form. We scored a few goals. He's getting some assists. But we can't have hot and cold. There needs to be some consistency in his play. And we're just not seeing that yet. But Gooner Boy, we will have at least one DC fan in Orlando. So it'll be great. I'll be looking out for you, mate. I'll be looking out for you. Here, just get some shouting done. Get some shouting. Fingers crossed you'll be there. Well, you're going to be there. Fingers crossed we'll see you. Hopefully there'll be some other DC fans with you as well. Like I said, I'm predicting I'm going to go for a 2-0 win this weekend. Google Gemini has predicted a 2-2 draw. I hope you've enjoyed this little episode, even though we did have some microphone issues at the very beginning, but we got through that. But that's it for this week. Remember, we'll have a little watch along tomorrow night if you're watching this before the game has happened against Orlando. If not, make sure you subscribe so you stay notified about all these watch alongs. Like I said previously, I'm going to be doing as much as I can. And if you enjoy what I do, please give the podcast, if you subscribe to it on Spotify or Apple Podcast, a rating and a review. And if you enjoy it, look out for the merch on the website as well. It would be great to see some DC UK apparel floating around the DC area or wherever you are in the world. So yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching if you're watching. And until next time, farmers.